Welcome to Wagons of Steel. It's a party and everyone's invited. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about buying and selling stuff online, and usually in the Craigslist style is how I've done it a lot in the past. I sell and buy stuff on Craigslist, eBay. The new kid on the block is Facebook. There's a lot of places to buy and sell stuff on Facebook. This video will not be especially informative. You might accidentally learn something. I do have a lot of knowledge about it. I'm mostly just going to be silly. One of my least favorite phrases is, "I'm not going to lie," or "if I'm being honest." It's such a bullshit thing to say. I mean, would you ever say the opposite? Well, I'm going to lie. Or if you say, "I'm not going to lie," does that mean most of the time you do lie? Well, if I was selling stuff on Craigslist, chances are good I would lie, because there's so many lies on Craigslist. It's unbelievable. It's just one after another, just piled on top of each other. And one of the basics of lying on Craigslist is just not even necessarily voluntary. Pictures and even videos make stuff look so much better than it actually is. Like, you would never know that this car here is a one-owner Hemi Belvedere because it looks so good in the video. You could barely see any of the blemishes or imperfections. It's just all you can see is the beautiful Hemi engine and the perfect interior. But I'll tell you what, it's actually not as good as you might think. A lot of times when I sell stuff on Craigslist especially, people ask me so many stupid questions. A lot of times there are questions you've already answered in the ad, or pictures about stuff that's easily visible in the pictures that you put up there. And it's led me to develop this theory that there are people out there and they cruise through Craigslist. Nothing wrong with that. That's fun to do. I'm guilty as charged. But then you decide, well, I wonder if I can get this asshole to lie on the ground in his driveway on this rainy day. I'm kind of bored. So you ask a question like, what's the bottom of the car look like? Well, I'm so done with that. It's like the bottom of the car looks like the bottom of a car. You can really get yourself a get out of stupid questions card by always selling stuff for a totally reasonable price. Another annoying thing that people do when they're cruising Craigslist and asking questions is they don't try and ask you about the car or whatever it is that you're actually selling. They ask you about something in the background. Like you can see here, let's say I'm selling this 64 Dodge. Then you'll ask about the minivan. How much for the minivan? Or, we have like a running joke with, a cat will jump up on the car, so you can ask, well, how much do you want for that cat? Or ask questions about stuff in the background that has nothing to do with what's for sale. This car is a classic example. It seems to show up a lot in the background of pictures that I'm selling cars, and this is my car. This is my 65 Belvedere, and it's a work in progress. And I like my old cars. I like just looking at them. I like the lines. I'm a weirdo. I mean, there's a few of you out there. I know it. You got old cars in the yard because it's a friendly place for your eye to rest when you're looking at stuff. So, everything's for sale. I'm not too tied up in anything, but this car is worth $5,000. If you came and took this thing away, you'd have to bring $5,000 and a trailer, and I'd give you the title and you could drive it away. I would be sad because but I'm honest. I'm realistic. That's what it would take to get rid of it. And so when someone asks, what is that car worth? Like, how much you want for that? I guess that price is just it's solid. I'm not gonna get off of that, but they're expecting me to say, oh, I'll let you have that one for $500, or I'll throw that in, or something like that. And then they get all hurt when I say I want $5,000 for that, and I'm not budging off of it because it's really not for sale. And so then, you just got to shake your head sometimes. A friend of mine was talking to me the other day about she was selling a motorcycle on Craigslist, I think it was. And a woman selling a motorcycle is like a standing invitation to the mansplainers of the world. And mansplaining, look it up. I'm not going to explain it to you, but it's such an annoying thing. So she gets all these phone calls from these people who are pretending to know more about what she's selling than she does. She's standing right in front of it. She's owned the motorcycle for 30 years, and now it's time to get rid of it. It's an old friend, and she wants a reasonable price for it. So, this brings up a question that comes to mind frequently when buying and selling stuff on Craigslist, and that is, where does this work for you? When someone has a line of questioning, when they get kind of hostile, or when they're like trying to get you to roll around in the dirt in front of your car, or bark like a dog, or sell it for half of what it's worth, or there's a whole variety of just insane behaviors that you get from people who are buying and selling, or trying to buy stuff on Craigslist, where you wonder, like, why are you doing this to me? If you're trying to buy something off of me, you could at least be polite. Now, this car could be yours. It ran when parked. We brought it in, just parked it right here. So you could probably, put on some battery and a gas, some gas and a battery in it, and it would start right up. But you might want to bring a trailer, because you never know. It probably needs a tune-up by now. Even after buying and selling stuff on Craigslist for years, I don't really know as much as I wish I did. Some stuff the ad is up for an hour and you've already gotten more money than you want for it. You just can't believe how fast some stuff sells. And other stuff will go up for, you won't get a peep out of it, and it seems like a perfectly reasonable price. The market is fickle, and you never know. And Craigslist especially, there's a lot of different buttons and options that I probably should know more about. So you can go like Craigslist, and so your stuff is for sale all over the country. So if somebody's looking for a manifold for a 318 poly head engine in Fort Worth, Texas, they'll look it up and it'll come up, and you can sell it to them from Seattle. Other times, you'll put a really good deal up, and you won't get a response from anyone anywhere. It's mysterious. They take Craigslist and eBay and Facebook Marketplace. They kind of taken the place of swap meets, and you can see a lot more stuff. It's like every time you turn your computer on, you're looking at the world's largest swap meet. But it's not the same as actually being there in person. There's something visceral about, it's something when you can touch things and really look at them and talk to the person who owns them. It makes it more likely you're going to buy sometimes. A lot of the same problems you have with Craigslist stuff you have on or at swap meets. It's all the same. You get a bunch of jack-offs asking stupid questions, but it's all, you just got to be patient, I suppose, and take frequent breaks. There are a lot of scams out there. There are a lot of people out trying to steal money in ways that you can't even imagine. I had a issue I've had it happen a couple of times to me now. I sell stuff in like generally I don't sell stuff for more than $5,000, and I sell stuff all the way down to, a couple $100. And that's the sweet spot for a certain type of scam that involves the person, they want to pay you more than you're asking for, and they want to send you cash, and they also want to send somebody with a cashier's check, and then the scam is then the cashier's check isn't any good, and so when you put the cashier's check in your bank or you cash it, then they charge your bank account for it, and that person gets the money out of it. I'm not exactly sure how it works. I mean, there's people, I'm sure this trick was probably hatched in prison or at some horrible job by somebody who had so much time on their hands and they were unethical, and they could just sit and figure out some way to scam honest people. It's something to be aware of, though. Really, I have a pretty good feel for people, so a lot of times I can take a check or trade or something, but in general, you want stuff to be straight up, wide open, absolutely understandable. Like, I am selling this car for $2,500. Will you take $2,000? Yes, I'll take $2,000. Here's $2,000 bills. Here's the title. Bye-bye. Or I'm selling it without the title because it never had one, or that, paperwork stuff gets kind of sketchy. But basically, you want to make sure that somebody's, cash. There's nothing wrong with saying it's got to be cash, and you've got to come and get it in person. Bring a trailer, and if that doesn't work, well, sorry, I'm not meeting you anywhere. I'm not taking a check. I'm not meeting a proxy. You've got to come and give it to me. A long time ago, a friend of mine who grew up in a boneyard told me, I won't have any car in my yard that doesn't have a title. And of course, that was a lie, because everybody has cars in their yard that don't have a title on them. You get talked into something or whatever. But the bottom line is, if you want to sell a car or buy a car, a title should be a part of the option, part of the deal. And if it isn't, there's ways to get titles for cars that don't have titles. And they're not necessarily that expensive, and they seem like more of a pain in the ass than they really are, but you really need to have a title with stuff. And so, two things to take away from that. One is, if you do get a car with no title, first off, make sure that it's not stolen from somebody, at least not in this century, and then start the work to get it. Usually, if it has to happen fast, there's places in Nevada that will do the title work for you. They search. There's you get a private detective who does a minor search on the car and makes sure that it isn't stolen, and then there's some paperwork they can roll through, and then bada bing, bada boom, title comes in the mail, and usually costs a couple $100 or up to $1,000. If you have to have it immediately, then they can do that, but it'll cost you. And if you're just buying a car off of somebody, do the paperwork to get that title going, because even if it seems like it's going to take a long time, it doesn't. Time flies, and before you know it, you'll go to the mailbox and there's the title for the car. And then when it comes time to sell the car, you don't have to make any excuses. You don't have to say, oh, but it's not stolen. There's no reason, you just seem like a dork if you don't have a title for the car that you're selling somebody. And making excuses just sounds like making excuses. This is an original aluminum nose Max Wedge car. It won the Montreal Nationals in 1963 with a dual quad slant 6 Hemi. And I used to drive it every day up until a couple weeks ago, and I just parked it right here. You can fire it right up and drive it anywhere you want to go. I'm the Wagons of Steel guy, and I sell station wagon stuff. And this kind of stuff is gold. I'm referring to this piece of trim here, which is station wagon only around for a couple of years. It's stainless, so it'll stay in perfect shape forever. Let's see, I took the tail lights off. I've got those stashed someplace because, man, it just, if somebody tags it with something, it'll just break your heart. These back windows, you know, they don't make these anymore. I can't even imagine what a pain in the butt it'd be to get those out. If you want those back windows, you're gonna have to take the whole car. These door handles. There's all kinds of cool old stuff on these cars that wouldn't really occur to you as worth something, but it is. I've shown this to you before in an earlier video, but this car's got the radio delete plate there. That's worth some money. Which brings me to the other thing. It has the shifter delete plate here too. Sometimes stuff, people think it's worth a lot more money than it is, or maybe it is. Like some guy in Sweden bought a radio delete plate for $400. Well, if somebody comes up and offers you $400 for your radio delete plate, take it. Because it might not actually be worth that tomorrow. Buying and selling cars is an extremely fickle deal. Back in the 90s, yeah, it was the 90s, collectible cars went through a huge price boom because investors started to use them as investments. And so, like, that was when I think somebody bought a Hemi Barracuda for $500,000, and you know, like a lot of even lesser cars, like, you know, Roadrunners and GTXs and stuff, started going for humongo dollars. And then the market cooled off, and it's really never come back. So if you bought a 440 GTX for $85,000 in 1995, well, I hope you enjoy driving it, because if you're trying to make that money back, you're shit out of luck. So flipping cars is, in general, very sketchy business. Sometimes you get lucky at it and you make a score, and then after that, it's not as, you don't make money for a while. It's almost like gambling, you know, like you win a bunch of money and so you think, oh yeah, I make thousands of dollars, but you don't pay attention to the nickels and dimes that you throw away over and over again. So it kind of works out more or less even. But if you are going to buy and sell cars for money, there's one rule that's more important than all the rest, and you'll see that people who buy and sell cars for money follow this rule to the letter, and that is, don't do anything to the cars. Buy low, sell high, or, you know, cars or parts or whatever. And I'm assuming probably Care Bears or anything else you want to buy or sell on the internet or anywhere else. Do nothing to it, but cars especially, because you know, as soon as you start to do work on a car, you know, look at that GTX in the background there. It's still, yeah. Don't get me started. But the bottom line is, you want to make sure that you do nothing to a car. Buy it for a low price, do nothing to it, and sell it for a bunch more money, and then you make money off the car. It's just that simple. It seems idiotically simple, but it's a lesson that's needs to be taken to heart, and it's kind of hard to take it to heart. You always think, oh, I'll just fix it up a little bit or whatever, you know, like my GTX. My excuse, and I'm sticking to it, is I always wanted that car. So I'll finish it off probably this year, and I'll drive it around, and it's a car that I've always wanted, and I don't mind if I don't sell it, because I paid it off a long time ago, and you know, if somebody wants to come and give me the money that it's worth someday, that'll be great, and if they don't, I'll continue to enjoy driving that car. So that's that. Buy low, sell high, do nothing. That's the way to really make money buying and selling stuff on the internet. And all the other stuff, you know, just have a sense of humor about it. And if it's really bugging you, then, you know, take a break and don't buy and sell. Just like look at the ads. And one last thing. Advice from me, a cheap guy who doesn't have money to buy any really fancy, expensive stuff, is only look at the fancy, expensive stuff. I try not to really go to the stuff that I can afford on Craigslist, because then before I know it, I'm like spending money that I really should be spending on, I don't know, food or electricity or something that, actually could be useful. And I'll spend it on, heads I don't need, or trim for wagons I don't need, or just crap. So don't go to the stuff that you can afford. Only go to the stuff that's really a fantasy, and then that'll keep you out of trouble. All right. Well, take care, and I'll see you next week. If you got any questions, put them below, and I'll try my best to answer them. And keep up the good work, and keep them smiling.